You've got to shell out for this, but I'm telling you to save your money here and never pay for this. Hi, I'm Tanner from Cruzely.com, and as part of my job, I've spent literally tens of thousands of dollars across dozens of cruises over the years. There's not much on a cruise ship that I haven't experienced. That means I can tell you firsthand there are some things that you need to splurge on during your trip to have the best time possible, and definitely some items to avoid. I'll lay it all out right now. Let's begin with something to splurge on that might be controversial, and that's splurging on the Wi-Fi. Now, I want to be clear here. Many people don't want to be connected while on a cruise. If that's you, then no, do not buy the Wi-Fi. It's expensive and it can be spotty. Save your money. But if you're like me and you make your living on a computer, or you just can't go for a week without an internet connection, I understand, I love Wordle too, then you will want to splurge for the highest tier internet service possible. Cruise ships usually have multiple tiers of connections, with a cheaper lower tier and a more expensive higher tier that's faster and allows you to stream and have full web access. There's no arguing that the prices are just insane. I just spent $85 for a 4-day cruise and I'm still not over that. But even the best connections at sea are going to be slower than back home, and those lower tier services can be nearly unusable in some cases. If you don't need Wi-Fi, then skip it. But if you do want it, then go big. Another spot to splurge may actually take care of that Wi-Fi issue for you. Cruise lines know that passengers, they don't like being nickeled and dimed, but it does generate a lot of revenue for the cruise line while keeping the cruise fare lower. But some lines like Princess and Celebrity, they've rolled out more all-inclusive packages. They can include things like the cruise, plus gratuities, the drink package, Wi-Fi, and more, though each line is different in what they offer. You'll want to do the math, but if you're planning to get the included items anyway, paying for these packages can often be well worth the money. For instance, I sailed Princess last year, and the Princess Plus offer with Wi-Fi and gratuities included, which I was going to pay for anyway. That meant that the drink package came out to only about $20 per day. That's a steal. So don't just assume it is a deal, but don't instantly dismiss these offers either. One thing I'll never get is visiting a spot like Coco Cay and seeing all of the cabanas. These things can cost thousands of dollars for a single day, and yet so many times I see them with a sign welcoming passengers, meaning that they are booked, yet they are sitting empty. Private islands are a big part of cruising. They are custom made for passengers. They include the beach and a pool and spots to eat that are all included in your cruise fare. The big ones, specifically Royal Caribbean's Coco Cay, they offer tons more to see and do. There are cabanas and zip lines, water parks, adults only areas. There's private clubs even serving lobster, and the list goes on. But these parts of the island, they cost more, and the costs can be significant. When there's so much that's free, however, I think it's hard to justify the added cost for these extras. I like to instead save my money here, enjoy the free stuff, and then use that money to spend in other ports of call to have a better experience there. This is me driving a jet boat, and panning for gold in Alaska, and exploring the Dominican Republic, and here's a trip to Mexico. If you can't tell, one spot that I think you should definitely splurge is with the shore excursions. Now, personally, I make it a rule of thumb to pick at least one port to do a shore excursion in every cruise, no matter what. The reason being that while they can sometimes be pricey, they also offer the ability to do things that you simply cannot do back home. I've found that well after the cruise, the day-to-day of the trip, it can fade a bit, but the shore excursions stand out as some of the sharpest memories that I have. I don't do them in every port simply because it would cost too much, but to me, doing one or two a trip is a must. Now, over the years, I've sailed in every type of room, from interior cabins all the way to suites. No surprise, those high-end rooms, they are way nicer. But the trade-off is that they are way more expensive. You can sail for a sharp discount if you book an interior room, but having your own balcony, it's great. To keep things simple, I always suggest that if you were sailing a trip of 4 days or fewer, then don't splurge for the balcony. No argument, it is nice, but on these short trips, you're spending so much of your vacation around the ship and in port. There's not much downtime that you're actually going to use on the balcony. In fact, overall, I think people spend way less time on the balcony than they ever realize. It's nice to be able to step outside, but if you look at the other ships when they're arriving or leaving port, which is a time that you'd expect lots of people outside, you can see that very few actually seem to be taking advantage. Now, I just told you not to splurge on the balcony, but I'm also telling you that you should splurge on the balcony, and I promise you, I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth. You'll notice that I just told you on trips of 4 days or fewer, you were good to skip the balcony cabins, but on trips that are longer than that, I think it is a nice spot to splurge. When you start getting to 5 or 6 or 7 days or longer, there's a lot more downtime on the cruise. There's more time where you just aren't going constantly around the ship or in port and you just want a place to relax. That means you have more time to actually take advantage of the space. That's on top of the idea that spending a week in a room without natural light or fresh air, it can be a little tough to handle for some people, and I'm someone that regularly sails interior cabins. So yes, it's definitely worth the extra money for a balcony on those longer trips. Now, I think one of my favorite aspects of cruising is that I don't have to do the entire "what do you want for dinner? I don't know, what do you want?" back and forth with my wife. She likes fancy meals, and frankly, I'm more of a backyard cookout sort of guy. On a cruise, we can both find something no matter where we eat. It pains me a bit, however, that I think one spot you should splurge is with the specialty restaurants. I'll admit, this one is hard for me personally when you have included options available at no extra charge. But if I'm honest, the buffet on any line I sail, it's okay at best to me. The main dining room is very hit and miss for my taste buds, with some dishes being amazing and others not so much. On most lines outside of Carnival, the other free options, they're actually more like snacks, not full meals. That leaves specialty restaurants. Here, the food, it isn't mass produced for thousands of people like you get in the buffet or dining room, and you can tell the difference. Now, you can't eat here every night or that would get way too expensive, but a time or two during a week-long cruise definitely breaks up the monotony of eating the same places over and over. If you've ever looked at the price list for the spa, you might have gotten some sticker shock. Prices of $150 for a basic massage, plus a 20% gratuity, that's not unusual. To me, it's too pricey, but then again, I've never paid for a massage on land or on a cruise, so maybe I'm missing something. But one place I'm not missing that I think you should splurge is with something that's rarely advertised by the spa. On the ship, the spa will have something that's called either a day pass or a thermal pass, something along those lines. These passes give you access to the spa, but no treatments. But you get the thermal loungers, the sauna, the fancy showers, the whirlpools, and you can spend as long here as you want. What I found is they are reasonably priced, often as little as $40 for the day, making them definitely worth the cost. Now, do you want to know the definition of a hypocrite? I'm going to tell you not to splurge in the ship's casino, but when you see me on your cruise, there's a decent chance I'll be here. I don't gamble a ton, but I always spend a little bit of time playing. Here's the deal, however. We all know that the odds are in the house's favor. Anyone that plays knows some casinos tilt the payouts to make things even more in their favor. The top tier of video poker, which I love to play, they're known as 9-6 machines. That means they pay 9 credits for a flush and 6 for a straight. The expected payback over time is 99.5%. Most cruise ships, they have 6-5 machines that pay back 95%. Then there are the rules around blackjack and craps that can reduce the payouts to be more in the house's favor. And there are all sorts of offbeat games like skill cranes for money and coin pushers that I don't even know how you calculate the payback rate. Bottom line, have fun, but I would not splurge here. I mentioned specialty restaurants as being a place to spend a little bit, but there's no arguing that they can get expensive. But here's a workaround you can use if you splurge in the main dining room. You'll spend less overall, but it can still be well worth it. Remember, the dining room is included in your cruise fare. But as a way to generate some money from those eating here, cruise lines have now introduced a free menu, but also some higher end options like filet mignon and lobster that are an extra charge. The trick is, if you splurge here, then you can actually save some money overall. For instance, a recent Carnival cruise saw a charge of $49 for the steakhouse, but you could get surf and turf or filet mignon for $23 off the dining room menu. That's about half the cost. Sure, you don't get the same atmosphere or the full menu of a place like the steakhouse, but it is a spot where you can spend a little and end up saving a lot. For the last spot where I'd suggest that you save your money, I'm gonna pick on Carnival a little bit. And frankly, this is one where I expect to see a lot of comments because it's about faster to the fun. Now, faster to the fun, it's a deal where you get priority service for an extra charge. You get priority check-in, bag drop-off, a shorter guest services line, and a lot more. The reviews from the service, they're generally pretty good. You look around online, you'll see lots of people saying that they love it. To me, however, it has never made sense. Take priority check-in, one of the big perks. Carnival's gotten so good at getting people on the ship that it's actually rare to have to wait that long to get checked in and board the ship. In fact, most people just do it online and they just walk straight through. Bag drop-off, it is nice. I recently had about 2 hours on a ship lugging my bag around before my stateroom was ready, but that's not worth paying upwards of $100 or more for. A shorter guest services line? After the first day, there's usually no line at all. Priority water shuttle boarding is another perk. It's very likely that your cruise, it won't even have a port where this is used. I have a hard time seeing any perks that would be worth the cost and would rather just save the money. Thanks for watching, and before you go, I want to know what you think is a deal on a cruise and where people shouldn't splurge. And as well, if you like this video, then I hope you'll subscribe as the channel approaches 100,000 subscribers. You can also prepare for your trip at Cruzely.com with tons of tips and advice on everything from packing to parking. Till next time, happy sailing.